Hello, Matt Fradd. I recently saw a video of yours that was titled Reacting to Brett Cooper's Thoughts on Porn. And as a self-proclaimed expert on porn, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. While you brought up some interesting studies that may have been a little bit outdated as they came before the advent of internet pornography, the thing that I really wanted to talk about today was your take on porn being objectively evil, which I thought was interesting.
There are certain actions that are not wrong in and of themselves, but can become wrong because of their consequences. Like if I went to Vegas and decided to go gambling one night, I think we would all agree I'm not doing something, all things being equal, intrinsically evil. But I could gamble to such a degree that I become addicted, that I spend my family's money, that I end up with marital problems, okay? And so fair enough, if you're trying to persuade people why they should get out of gambling or why they shouldn't get into it in the first place, and I think that's admirable, you might point to those consequences of gambling. Fair enough. But then there are actions that are wrong because of what they are. Child abuse, racism, rape. It's not like, well, if we just mitigate the negative consequences around racism, then maybe it's okay, in a way that you might say with gambling. And so you've got two things here. You've got one thing that we're looking at, like gambling, that's wrong because of how it comes about or what it brings about. And then you've got things like racism or child abuse that are just wrong because of what they are. And so the question is pornography like gambling or is pornography like child abuse or like racism or something like that? And we have to say it's like racism.
Okay, so you are making the claim that porn is wrong, or in a more religious framing, evil in and of itself, similar to racism, similar to child abuse, similar to rape. I think that there are problems with that worldview. I think that throwing your hands up and proclaiming that these evils are evil just because they're evil is a bit of a cop-out, and I think there are actual arguments that can be made to describe what's wrong with pornography. Something that I think you agree with as well, because you go on to try to support your claim that porn is evil in and of itself. So let's listen to what your supporting evidence is for porn being evil just by itself.
Like, it's false because of what it is. It's wrong in and of itself. And what that means is, even if you could help somebody view pornography with regularity such that they never experienced sort of neurological definition of addiction, that it didn't interfere with their marriage or their job or the way they viewed other people, and that you could be convinced that the pornography that they were watching was consensual and done with the strictest sort of guidelines such that it, as well as it could, elevated the dignity of the participants. Like, what then? It's still evil. And it's evil because...
So let's just remember what you just said there. You are filming porn in a way that it elevates the dignity of the participants as much as possible. However high that dignity may be, you can still say that it's not high enough to do it. But just keep in mind that you said in this hypothetical situation, the dignity of the participants that are producing the pornography is as raised as high as possible.
We should never treat people merely as means to an end. If you've ever been used, it feels like violence has been done to you, doesn't it? And that's because it has. The human person is a good towards which the only proper and adequate attitude is love. That's it. What is love? It's willing the good of the other for their sake. What's the opposite of love? Karol Wojtyła, who would go on to become Pope John Paul II, would say the opposite of love is use. Why? If love is willing your good for your sake, use seeks my good at your expense. It's always wrong. In addition to that, it is a perversion of what sex is. Sex.
Okay, so you just listed off your first reasoning that you don't like porn, saying that it's use. That is a strange argument against porn, saying that that it's use. I don't see what like the production of pornography or the consumption of pornography is any more use than the production of any kind of film or television shows and the consumption of those. Like, it's the exact same thing. So the use argument, I don't really understand. Let's go on to your argument from nature and we'll see what you have to say here.
Clearly exists for the union of the spouses and an openness to life. If somebody is having an erotic moment with their laptop, neither is happening. They're thwarting the end of the goodness that is their sexual desire and drive.
Okay, so you said two things there. The first thing that you said is sex clearly exists for the union of the spouses and an openness to life. And then the second thing you said, if someone's having a romantic moment with their laptop, they are thwarting the end of the goodness of their sexual drive. These two things don't really have anything to do with each other, right? For the one thing, the person that's having sex, which I'm assuming you're talking about the people that are producing porn, aren't having romantic moments with their laptop, correct? So it seems like this is an argument against just sex that is not creating children, where you can have porn you can film sex scenes that create children. Like, that is not an argument against the production of porn. And then the second thing that you said, if someone's having a romantic moment with their laptop, they're thwarting the end of the goodness of their sexual drive, let alone goodness of their sexual drive. I don't know what that means. But if we're to take this argument as a whole, that is an argument against masturbation and not an argument against the consumption or the production of pornography. Keep in mind, you said that we are getting rid of all negative externalities of pornography and we are just focusing on porn itself and why it should be banned, correct? Like, if this is why you want it to be banned, then you want to ban masturbation, not pornography.
What is it exactly about the selling of it? Because people sell their bodies in other ways.
But not in a way that degrades the person. And they're not selling their bodies as much as they are selling their labor or their talent. This is not true in pornography.
So let's just address what you said there. They're not selling their bodies like they do in pornography, but they are selling their labor and their talent. Labor and talent are intrinsically linked to your bodies. You can say that in a mine, sure, it's your labor, but you are also sacrificing your body. You are breaking down your body, picking up heavy loads. If you're like loading a truck, delivering things, it all, like, labor comes from your body, correct? And yeah, you can say that producing good porn is a talent in and of itself, and it is definitely a labor, right? You are acting, you are showing up to your workplace, you have hours, you have a set number of contracts that you have to fulfill. Again, like, you're trying to make a distinction between porn and regular work, and that distinction just really does not exist.
Pornography, when someone consumes pornography, they're subordinating the dignity of the person to the inferior good of their pleasure. It's not that pleasure is bad, obviously, but even without faith, one can recognize that a person is worth more than pleasure, not to mention illicit pleasure.
That's very true.
Okay, so I think the last thing you said there is really what your argument is stemming from, the illicit pleasure, right? The illicit pleasure of the sexual variety, correct? What you said subordinating the dignity of the person to the inferior good of their pleasure, like the consumer's pleasure. This could be applied to being a waitress. You are sacrificing your dignity as a person by serving the people that are your patron. It is a very undignified job, correct? You are at their beck and call. You are picking up their food. You are dealing with all of their problems that they have. You are basically whoring yourself out trying to satisfy not only their gluttonous pleasures of the mouth and their taste bud pleasure, but also like satisfying their egos trying to work for your tip, being nice to them, being obsequious. Again, you are trying to make a distinction, and really your biggest distinction is that this is a sexual thing, and thus it is bad. As you said, illicit pleasure. You said especially their illicit pleasure. Labor, when you are dealing with customers, and it's important to have customer satisfaction, that inherently deals with your customer's pleasure. If it wasn't a pleasurable experience for them, they weren't getting something out of it, they wouldn't be participating in this labor transaction. This is all in the context of you trying to prove pornography is inherently evil, and I really think that you failed at it in this video. To be fair, this video is you reacting to another video, so I assume you can come up with better arguments for it being inherently evil. But if you are doing this thought experiment where you are getting rid of all of the externalities of pornography and you are just focusing on it by itself, I would really encourage you to delve deeper into that thought experiment and come up with why the illicit pleasure, as you put it, somehow makes pornography worse than being a waiter or being a cook for someone or being a masseuse. You're sacrificing your body for the pleasure of your clients, right? That's all I have to say. I think you are a very good interviewer, and I enjoy watching your episodes, but I do think you have some half-baked ideas, and I would encourage you to reflect on them more in depth and seriously. Okay, thank you, and keep up the interviews. I always like hearing what is happening on the Catholic side of things, even though I don't always agree with it.